सहनौ भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत् स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तमवेति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः। जय गुरुदेव। तपोभीक्षीणपापाणां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। I am composing the Atma bodha, this treatise of the knowledge of the self, for those who have purified themselves by austerities and are peaceful in heart and calm, who are free from cravings and are desirous of liberation. बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति. Just as the fire is the direct cause for cooking, so without knowledge, no emancipation can be had. Compared with all other forms of discipline, knowledge of the self is the one direct means of liberation. अविरोधितया कर्म ना विद्यां विनिवर्तयेत् विद्या विद्यां निहन्त्येव तेजस्तिमिरसङ्घवत्. Action cannot destroy ignorance, for it is not in conflict with or opposed to ignorance. Knowledge does verily destroy ignorance, as light destroys deep darkness. सति केवलः स्वयं प्रकाशते यात्मा मेघापायेषुमानिव. The soul appears to be finite because of ignorance. When ignorance is destroyed, the self, which does not admit of any multiplicity, truly reveals itself by itself, like the sun when the clouds pass away. Ajnana-kalusham jivam ज्ञानाभ्यासाद् विनिर्मलं कृत्वा ज्ञानं स्वयं नश्येत ज्वलं जलं कतकरेणुवत्. Constant practice of knowledge purifies the self, Jivatman, stained by ignorance, and then disappears itself as the powder of the Kataka nut settles down after it has cleansed the muddy water. संसारस्वप्नतुल्यो हि रागद्वेषादिसङ्कुलः स्वकाले सत्यवद्भाति प्रबोधे सत्यसद्भवेत्. The world, which is full of attachments, aversions, etc., is like a dream. It appears to be real as long as it continues, but appears to be unreal when one is awake. That is when true wisdom dawns. Yavat satyam jagat bhati shuktikarajatam yatha yam na jnayate brahma sarvadhishthanamadvayam. The Jagat appears to be true, Satyam, so long as Brahman, substratum, the basis of all this creation is not realized. Like the illusion of silver in the mother of pearl. Upadane khiladhare jaganti parameshware sargasthiti layanyanti budbudani vavari. Like bubbles in the water, the worlds rise, exist, and dissolve in the Supreme Self, which is the material cause and the prop of everything. Satchidatmanyanusyute nitye Vishnu prakashitah. क्षम्यतां सच्चिदात्मन्यनुस्यूते नित्ये विष्णौ प्रकल्पिताः व्यक्तयो विविधात् सर्वा हाटके कटकादिवत्. All the manifested world of things and beings are projected by imagination upon the substratum, which is the eternal, all-pervading Vishnu, whose nature is existence, intelligence, just as the different ornaments are all made of gold, the same gold. यथा काशो ऋषिकेशो नानोपाधिगतो विभुः तद्भेदाद् भिन्नवद्भाति तन्नाशे केवलो भवेत्. The all-pervading Akasha appears to be diverse on account of its association with various conditionings, upadhis, which are different from each other. Space becomes one on the destruction of these limiting adjuncts. So also the omnipresent truth appears to be diverse on account of its association with the various upadhis and becomes one on the destruction of these upadhis. Nanopadhivashadeva Nashramadayah Atmanyaruitastoye Varnadvata. Because of association with different conditions, upadhis such ideas as caste, color, position are superimposed upon the Atman as flavor, color, etc. are superimposed on water. पञ्चीकृतमहाभूतः सम्भवं कर्म सञ्चितं शरीरं सुखदुःखानां भोगायतनमुच्यते. Determined for each individual by his own past actions and made up of the 5 elements that have gone through the process of a 5-fold self-division and mutual combination. Panchikarana are born, the gross body, the medium through which pleasure and pain are experienced, the tent of experiences. पंच प्राण मनो बुद्धि दशेन्द्रिय समन्वितम अपंचीकृत भूतोत्थम सूक्ष्मांगम भोग साधनम. The 5 pranas, the 10 organs, and the manas and the buddhi formed from the rudimentary elements, tanmatras, before their 5-fold division and mutual combination with one another, panchikarana. And this is the subtle body, the instruments of experience of the individual. Anadya vidya nirvachya karanopadiruchyate upadhitritaya danyam atmanam avadharayet. Avidya, which is indescribable and beginningless, is the causal body. Know for certain that the Atman is other than these 3 conditioning bodies, upadhis. पंचकोशादियोगेन ततन्मयैव स्थितः शुद्धात्मानिलवस्त्रादिः योगेन स्फटिको यथा. In its question, with 5 sheets, the immaculate Atman borrowed the abilities upon itself, as case of a crystal which appears together upon itself, color of its vicinity, blue cloth, etc. Vapustushadibihi kaushaihi कोशैः युक्तं युक्त्या वधाततः. क्षम्यताम्, वघाततः. वपुस्तुषादिभिः कोशैः युक्तं युक्त्या वघाततः आत्मानमन्तरं शुद्धं विविच्या तण्डुलं यथा. Through discriminative self-analysis and logical thinking, one should separate the pure self within from the sheets as one separates the rice from the husk, bran, etc. that are covering it. Sada sarvagato-pyatma na sarvatravabhasate buddha vevavabhaseta Svacheshu Pratibimbhavata. The Atman does not shine in everything, although he is all pervading. He is manifest only in the inner equipment, the intellect, buddhi, just as the reflection in a clean mirror. Dehendriyamano buddhi prakrutibhyo vilakshanam Tadvritti sakshinam vidyat atmanam rajavatsada. One should understand that the Atman is always like the king, distinct from the body, senses, mind, and intellect, all of which constitute the matter Prakriti and is the witness of their functions. Atma Vyapari bhavikinam drishyate dhavatu dhavan yatha shashi. The moon appears to be running when the clouds move in the sky. Likewise, to the non-discriminating person, the Atman appears to be active when it is observed through the functions of the sense organs. Atma Chaitanyamashritya Dehendriyamanoधियः Svakriyartheshu Vartante Suryalokam Yatha Janaः. Depending upon the energy or vitality of consciousness, Atma Chaitanya, the body, senses, mind, and intellect engage themselves in their respective activities, just as men work depending upon the light of the sun. Dehendriya gunan karmanyamale satchidatmani adhyasyantya vivekena gagane nilatadivata. Fools, because they lack in their powers of discrimination, superimpose on the Atman the absolute existence, knowledge, Sat Chit, all the varied functions of the body and the senses, just as they attribute blue color and the light to the sky. I think we had completed till 22nd. Ajnanan manasopadhe कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि कल्प्यन्ते भुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्भसः. The tremblings that belong to the waters are attributed through ignorance to the reflected moon dancing on it. Likewise, agency of action, of enjoyment, and of other limitations which really belong to the mind are delusively understood as the nature of the self, Atman. I think if you want me to read the paragraph before that, today we will start with the third verse. So in the previous stanza, it was mentioned by Swamiji the way in the unstable surface in a bucket of water, when the moon's reflection is there, that we feel that the moon is dancing. The moon's reflection is not clear, but it is not in reality the moon's it is not, the moon is not dancing. It is the unshaken, it is the shaken surface on which it is reflected.
Excuse me, Balaji, when you reading the sloka, I know it's in the Sanskrit, can you kind of show both like English and the Sanskrit so we can read I mean, if it's possible.
There is, I'm sorry, I will just keep the English transliteration also. When I will be reading the shloka, I will try to keep it like this. Is it okay?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, if it's possible. I know it's a page by page. It's kind of hard to do that.
I will try to reduce little bit.
Yeah, this is better.
Is it legible?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you want me to read the previous shloka or anything, or repeat?
That, yeah, this one.
Yeah,
can
this
you just read the
yes.
sloka? That's fine.
Yeah. अज्ञानान् मानसोपाधेः कर्तृत्वादीनि चात्मनि कल्प्यन्ते भुगते चन्द्रे चलनादि यथाम्भसः. The trembling that belongs to the waters are attributed through ignorance to the reflected moon dancing on it. Likewise, agency of action, of enjoyment, and of other limitations which really belong to the mind are delusively understood as the nature of the self, Atman. So the example here is of an image of the moon reflected in a bucket of water, which seems to shiver when the water surface is disturbed. When the water calms down and becomes steady, we do not see the shattered moon in the bucket of water reassembling to form one whole. Similarly, when one has purified one mind and has consolidated...
Voice is breaking, madam. Voice is breaking.
Yeah. Yes, the internet is unstable again. The notification is coming. Should I read once again, or someone else want to read? The example here is of an image of the moon reflected in a bucket of water, which seems to shiver when the water surface is disturbed. When the water calms down and becomes steady, we do not see the shattered moon in the bucket of water reassembling to form one whole. Similarly, when one has purified one's mind and has consolidated its strength and has reconstructed it to be firm and steady by narrowing down its various unholy, unhelpful, and selfish thoughts, the glory of the self gets automatically reflected in all its beauty within oneself, unshaken by the dualities around and the consequent agitations. रागेच्छा सुख दुःखादि बुद्धौ सत्यां प्रवर्तते सुषुप्तौ नास्ति तन्नाशे तस्मात् बुद्धेस्तु नात्मनः रागः attachment, इच्छा desire, sukha pleasure, dukkhadi pain, etc. Buddhau satyam when mind or intellect functions, pravartate are perceived, sushuptau in deep sleep, na not, asti is, tannashe at the destruction of it, mind, tasmat therefore, buddhehe of the mind, tu only, na not, atmanah of the atman. राग इच्छा सुख दुखादि बुद्धौ सत्यां प्रवर्तते सुषुप्तौ न अस्ति तन्नाशे तस्मात् बुद्धेः तु न आत्मानः attachment, desire, pleasure, pain, etc. are perceived to exist so long as buddhi or mind functions. They are not perceived in deep sleep when the mind ceases to exist. Therefore, they belong to the mind alone and not to the Atman. I repeat once again, attachment, desire, pleasure, pain are perceived to exist so long as buddhi or mind functions. They are not perceived in deep sleep when the mind ceases to exist. Therefore, they belong to the mind alone and not to the Atman. There is no place for ignorance in the blissful existence of the self, which is omniscient and omnipresent. How can there be darkness before light? And how can the passions that arise in the mind come to stay with the Atman? It is the avidya of the individual, his desire for pleasure and his attachment to the fruits of his actions that deludes him to the bondage of samsara. Please let me know if you want me to repeat anything because the internet is unstable only. So kindly let me know if you want me to repeat the paragraph again. A pure mind leads one to greater glory and happiness and ultimately to liberation through the final experience of true knowledge. The same mind drags the individual down to lower births when it groans in ajnana. I will read once again. This is a very, very important takeaway. A pure mind leads one to greater glory and happiness and ultimately to liberation through the final experience of the true knowledge, while the same mind drags the individual down to lower births when it groans in ajnana. Therefore, if we deal suitably with the turbulent mind and quieten its riotous activities, the self is revealed in its infinite glory with no blemish of the jivatman, jivatvam in him. And remember, attachment, desire, etc. are of the mind and not of the Atman. So as long as we remain in ajnana and we remain in that pain and pleasure kind of thing, which is not the nature of Atman, it is just the nature of mind, but we assume it as a reality and we believe that we are in pain, we are in joyful state. So as long as we remain in that ajnana, we continue to come back to birth and death recycling. There is no liberation. So the true liberation happens only with the jnana about the self. That the desire and all the attachments, they are only of the mind and they are not of the Atman. So long as we are functioning through our mind, we are under the tyranny of attachment, desire, pleasure, pains, etc. But in deep sleep, when temporarily our minds are not effective in ourselves, all these tyrannies are at an end. When I look through a pair of green goggles, everything looks green. When I look at things with my naked eye, there is no green color. Therefore, the greenness is due to the glasses. So too, all these negative tendencies belong to the mind and are perceived only through the mind. They are not of the Atman. So therefore, in the 6th chapter, Bhagwan has suggested Atma Vishuddhi, that is of the mind. Antakarana Shuddhi is of the mind. Once the mind is purified, then you can see clearly the self-evidence self, Atman. If you want me to read anything, please let me know, because it is the internet instability is continuing. Prakashorkasya to yasya shaityam agneryathošnata svabhav satchidanandan nitya nirmalatatmanah स्वभाव सच्चिदानंदः नित्य निर्मलतात्मनः क्षम्यताम् प्रकाशः luminosity अर्कस्य of the sun toyasya for water shaityam coolness agnehe for fire yatha just as Ushnata, heat, Swabhavah, nature, Sat, reality, Chit, consciousness, Ananda, bliss, Nitya, eternity, Nirmalata, purity, Atmanah, of the Atman. Prakashah, Arkasya, Toyasya, Shaityam, Agnehe, Yatha, Ushnata, Swabhavah, Sat, Chit, Ananda, Nitya, Nirmalata Atmanaha. Just as luminosity is the nature of the sun, coolness of water, and heat of fire, so too the nature of the Atman is eternity, purity, reality, consciousness, and bliss. I repeat, just as luminosity is the nature of the sun, coolness of water, and heat of fire, so too the nature of the Atman is eternity, purity, reality, consciousness, and bliss. So the self is always Sat Chit Ananda only, and that is the truth, that is the reality, the only reality. Whether it is the human personality or the plant specimen or animal entity, no one wants to die or suffer any agony and pain. Instead, there is a positive effort at all times for the acquisition of knowledge and the enjoyment of pleasure and for the self-preservation of the individuality. I repeat because there is again the instability. So my voice must be breaking. Is it breaking too much? Then one of you can please volunteer to read and I can.
No, Belaji,
No,
nothing. It's
not much.
Yeah, okay. Whether it is the human personality or the plant specimen or animal entity, no one wants to die or suffer any agony and pain. Instead, there is a positive effort at all times for the acquisition of knowledge and the enjoyment of pleasure and for the self-preservation of the individuality. Nothing can remain away from its essential nature, dharma. There cannot be cool fire or a direct sun. Or a dark sun. There cannot be cool fire or a dark sun. Every object must express its own essential nature. This is so beautiful. I read once again. Nothing can remain away from its essential nature, dharma. There cannot be cool fire or a dark sun. Every object must express its own essential nature. So you cannot say there is a cool fire because fire is always hot. And you cannot say dark sun because sun is always bright and light. In the same way, every object has its own essential nature. And our Atman nature is that Sat Chit Ananda only. The sun is luminosity itself, which it shows out. The heat of the fire is well known, and no one has come across a cold ball of fire. Similarly, if at all Atman is to be defined in terms of its nature, we can only say that it is that which is eternal, nitya, ever pure, nirmala, and existence, knowledge, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. I will read once again the last line. Similarly, if at all Atman is to be defined in terms of its nature, we can only say that it is that which is eternal, nitya, ever pure, nirmala, and existence, knowledge, bliss, Sat Chit Ananda. So it is Nitya Shuddha and Sat Chit Ananda always. Anyone wants to share anything? Kindly let me know. Atmana Satchidanshascha Buddhirvrittiriti Dvayam Sanyojya cha Vivekena Janamiti Pravartate. Atmanah of the self, Satchidanshaha, the existence, knowledge aspect, Cha and Buddhehe of the intellect, Vrittihi, the thought wave, Itihi, thus, Dvayam, the two, Sanyojya, blending, Cha and Avivekena, through indiscrimination, Janami, I know, Iti, thus, Pravartate, functions. Atmanah Satchidamshah cha Buddhehe Vrittihi Itihi Dvayam Sanyojya cha Avivekena Janami Iti Pravartate. By the indiscriminate blending of the two, the existence, knowledge aspect of the self and the thought wave of the intellect, there arises the notion of I know. I repeat, by the indiscriminate blending of the two, the existence knowledge aspect of the self and the thought wave of the intellect, there arises the notion of I know. The Atman is self.
Jai Gurudev, can somebody explain this?
I think as we read the explanation, it will be self-explanatory. Still, we will come back to the meaning. Yeah?
Okay.
Is it?
Thank you. Yeah, Jai Gurudev.
Yeah. The Atman is self-effulgent and mind is inert matter. Without the power of illumination in consciousness, the mind would be inert and powerless to feel. For without this awareness within, we will not be conscious of our own thoughts. At the same time, a marriage between these two contradictory things is impossible, and therefore any alliance between the two is only at best a delusory superimposition. I will read once again. The Atman is self-effulgent and mind is inert matter. Without the power of illumination in consciousness, the mind would be inert and powerless to feel. For without this awareness within, we will not be conscious of our own thoughts. At the same time, a marriage between these two contradictory things is impossible, and therefore any alliance between the two is only at best a delusory superimposition. The experience I know is thus produced only when a feeling or thought stands bathed in the light of consciousness. Each thought is considered as a wave-like disturbance in the mental stuff. When these waves of thoughts arise in us, they are illumined by our awareness. When we cry, I know, I understand, I feel, etc. The experience I know is thus produced only when a feeling or thought stands bathed in the light of consciousness. Each thought is considered as a wave-like disturbance in the mental stuff. When these waves of thoughts arise in us, they are illumined by our awareness. When we cry, I know, I understand, I feel, etc. And anyone can explain it in a simple term? Kindly unmute and explain. As long as my little understanding goes, it is always like we remain in that Deha Bhava and we say, I know this, I am painful, I am sad. And that is not the reality. The reality is self, which is unattached, which remains Satchit Ananda bliss always, ever pure, ever blissful. So that two contradictory things cannot be possible. You cannot continue to remain in that world of unreality, asat, and at the same time feeling that Sat Chit Ananda Atman. In reality, they are all superimpositions. Shobhana Dhyasa, we had seen in the chapter 6, right? They are all superimposition. So, in actually, the Atman is self-effulgent. It is Swayam Prakashit. It doesn't require anyone can please come forward and explain in a simple way, please.
Yes, I would like to say here that we normally think the mind to be very, very active, constantly active. And Vedanta is saying that it is inert. In the very first paragraph that the Atma is self and mind is inert matter. So normally we consider mind to be very active. We say a hyperactive mind, you are hyperactive. We mean the mind is very, very active. Here it is showing that Vedanta is saying that mind is inert matter. It's only because of the Atma, the illumination of the Atma, that the mind is seen to be as active.
Here, one example is coming into my mind to little bit analogy or just simplification. As our idiot box TV, all channels are there on the screen, but it is like inert. No, there is nothing virtual unless until we put the power plug and switch on the electricity to the TV. Then only that everything gets illumined. Otherwise, it is inert. No. Nothing is there. The TV box is also inert, and all the virtual things which we see and get engrossed into it totally. So I think we can see the analogy between the Atman and the mind. The mind gets illumined all the thoughts and feelings and emotions only in the presence of the consciousness. So without the consciousness, mind is just um, inert thing like TV. Does that make a little bit more sense? Otherwise, it becomes very difficult to understand that mind is inert. Jai Gurudev.
I think you're right. That Atma is described as equivalent to sun, right? And then in the thoughts are compared to the waves of the sea, and what do you call that? When you say I know and I feel, I understand, the illusory projection is meaning like we falsely believe that it's all our mind doing it. That's the experience. So, we read about what the subject and object and the experiencer and experiencing and experience, so that what we have to apply here and see. So that the what do you call that? The Tatparya here is by the indiscriminate blending of the two, the existence knowledge aspect of the self and the thought wave of the intellect, there arises the notion of I know. So it's kind of it's indiscriminate blending. So it blends both of that. That's what. But then when the wave subsides, that existent knowledge is it's a deep ocean. That's what I feel. I mean, again, there are a lot of different explanations given in the 3 paragraphs that you read. Yeah, when say indiscriminate, meaning it you cannot separate. Okay, this is mind, this is the intellect, this is the consciousness. It's kind of blended. That's what it meant in indiscriminate blending things.
Yeah, similarly, this TV also has all the potential to show us all hundreds of channels and knowledge also, all bakwas also, everything, all possibilities there. But the possibility gets illumined only and only when
Madhuriji,
electricity.
your voice is echoing, Madhuriji.
Yeah, I think that is a wonderful explanation by everyone. As we read further, I think it will become more and more clear. But I think the crux is that without the knowledge about the Atman, everything remain, you can say that in inert stage. And we continue to remain in that Deha Bhava, I know, I understand, I feel. And they cannot leave those, they are two contradictory things. There's this is very important line. Please try to remember. At the same
think,
time, a marriage. Yeah.
We should read one more time. That I think that will resolve a little bit.
Okay. So I will
think that
read
is a
once
bit.
again. Yeah. By the indiscriminate blending of the two, the existence knowledge aspect of the self and the thought wave of the intellect, there arises the notion of I know. The Atman is self-effulgent and mind is inert matter. Without the power of illumination in consciousness, the mind would be inert and powerless to feel. For without this awareness within, we will not be conscious of our own thoughts. At the same time, a marriage between these two contradictory things is impossible, and therefore, any alliance between the two is only at best a delusory superimposition. This is an important line, please remember. The experience I know is thus produced only when a feeling or thought stands bathed in the light of consciousness. Each thought is considered as a wave-like disturbance in the mental stuff. When these waves of thoughts arise in us, they are illumined by our awareness. When we cry, I know, I understand, I feel, etc. The sun rises and then the waves of the sea are seen and experienced. The sunlight falls on all faces equally. Like a silken veil, it lies on every surface, and when the waves rise, the light yields, embraces waves on all sides, illumined. So too, in our inner bosom, the light of consciousness illumines the height, breadth, and depth of each thought. The mind-intellect equipment stands ever exposed to the eternal self and its light of awareness. When through the sense organs, the stimuli from external world reach the bosom, the mind, with the help of the knowledge acquired by it in the past, produces its responses, which in their turn are expressed in the actions. Life is an unbroken series of experiences, and therefore the individual is called upon to respond to it constantly. To know the happenings and to know how to meet them is the contents and purpose of man's intellectual life. Self is knowledge absolute. It is knowledge itself. In it, there is nothing else that is to be known. It is the only one subject without any object to be known. As such, in itself, it has nothing to know. Yet, we are experiencing the intellectual life of constantly knowing. How? This is the subject explained in this stanza. Shall I
Very
read
good.
further?
Very good. Very good. Very nice.
Yeah, I will read further. It will be clear, I think. And
Yeah,
I
really.
will, if you wish, I will repeat once again.
Yeah,
It
no,
is
no,
the,
no. This was very good. Wonderful.
it
Thank
is
you.
the theory in Vedanta that the knowledge of things is gained, not in the direct light of consciousness, but it is in the beam of consciousness reflected in the mind. I will explain it with the help of an illustration. Suppose there is a storeroom in your house which is ever in darkness. One day you realized that the room was extremely well illumined. Why? There was a bucket of water on the veranda where the sunlight got reflected and threw a pull of light on the dark wall of the room. If your little son were to come at that time to play with the bucket of water, the illumination in the dark room will disappear. For when the reflecting medium is disturbed, the reflected light is splashed about, and the room is again in the dark until the reflection rehabilitates itself on the wall. So too, the self never illumines the objects directly, but the light of consciousness reflected on our intellect throws out a beam of reflected consciousness, which illumines the objects and gives us the experience I know. That is why even a man of intelligence, when vexed with some worry, cannot think properly or understand easily. His power of understanding or thinking is clouded when the mind is disturbed. Thus, when the mental pool rises in thought waves, The light of the self illumines them. Thoughts dressed in consciousness is the clear experience I know. Feelings and ideas in our bosom, in consciousness, are our knowledge of things. Anger, knowledge, etc. are all characteristics of the mind, and they are thus attributed to the Atma due to lack of discrimination. The nature of the Atman in reality is Sat Chit Ananda, and this eternal self does not undergo any change even when the individual experiences anger, pain, pleasure, etc. in his mind.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, it is very simple. And this last paragraph explains everything. If you want me to read anything once again, or if anyone can share the takeaway in an easier way, kindly unmute and share.
Didi, can you please read again once the last paragraph?
Yeah. Only the last para?
The whole thing? Yeah. The explanation,
Okay.
the example.
Okay. Okay. The Atman is self-effulgent and mind is inert matter. Without the power of illumination in consciousness, the mind would be inert and powerless to feel, for without this awareness within, we will not be conscious of our own thoughts. At the same time, a marriage between these two contradictory things is impossible, and therefore any alliance between the two is only at best a delusory superimposition. The experience I know is thus produced only when a feeling or thought stands bathed in the light of consciousness. Each thought is considered as a wave-like disturbance in the mental stuff. When these waves of thoughts arise in us, they are illumined by our awareness. When we cry, I know, I understand, I feel, etc. The sun rises and then the waves of the sea are seen and experienced. The sunlight falls on all surfaces equally. Like a silken veil, it lies on every surface. Like a silken veil, it lies on every surface, and when the waves rise, the light veil yields, embracing the waves on all sides, illumining it. So too, in our inner bosom, the light of consciousness illumines the height, breadth, and depth of each thought. The mind-intellect equipment stands ever exposed to the eternal self and its light of awareness. When through the sense organs, the stimuli from external world reach the bosom, the mind, with the help of the knowledge acquired by it in the past, produces its responses, which in their turn are expressed in the actions. Life is an unbroken series of experiences, and therefore the individual is called upon to respond to it constantly. To know the happenings and to know how to meet them is the contents and purpose of man's intellectual life. Self is knowledge absolute. It is knowledge itself. In it, there is nothing else that is to be known. It is the only one subject without any object to be known. As such, in itself, it has nothing to know. Yet, we are experiencing the intellectual life of constantly knowing. How? This is the subject explained in this stanza. It is the theory in Vedanta that the knowledge of things is gained not in the direct light of consciousness, but it is in the beam of consciousness reflected in the mind. I will explain it with the help of an illustration. Yeah, please remember this word, the beam of consciousness reflected in the mind. The knowledge about ourself, okay, that is the sun, and its reflection is on our mind when we So just try to pay attention to the example. Suppose there is a storeroom in your house which is ever in darkness. One day you realized that the room was extremely well illumined. Why? There was a bucket of water on the veranda where the sunlight got reflected and threw a pull of light on the dark wall of the room. If your little son were to come at that time to play with the bucket of water, the illumination in the dark room will disappear. For when the reflecting medium is disturbed, the reflected light is splashed about, and the room is again in the dark until the reflection rehabilitates itself on the wall. So too, the self never illumines the objects directly, but the light of consciousness reflected on our intellect throws out a beam of reflected consciousness, which illumines the objects and gives us the experience I know. That is why even a man of intelligence, when vexed with some worry, cannot think properly or understand easily. His power of understanding or thinking is clouded when the mind is disturbed. Thus, when the mental pool rises in thought waves, the light of the self illumines them. Thoughts dressed in consciousness is the clear experience I know. Feelings and ideas in our bosom glittering in consciousness are our knowledge of things. Anger, knowledge, etc. are all characteristics of the mind. Remember, they are the characteristics of the mind, and they are thus attributed to the Atman due to lack of discrimination. The nature of the Atman in reality is Sat Chit Ananda, and this eternal self does not undergo any change even when the individual experiences anger, pain, pleasure, etc. in his mind. So the last paragraph is like the takeaway. Anyone can explain, please? Unmute and explain in a simple
Jai
terminology.
Gurudev, this we discussed it earlier also when we were reading Atma bodha, and there was a lot of confusion while we were discussing this. But what I is that we forget the definition of Atma. It's Sat Chit Ananda. So Sat is that it remains unchanged in all the three periods of time, like the past, present, future. It doesn't change. That is Sat. Then the part, the Chit, is being expressed here because they are time and again they are telling that in the light of awareness, that awareness is the quality of the Atma, that is the Chitta. Chit is the awareness which quality the Atma has, and it is by the help of this quality that this mind intellect equipment it stands like it is exposed to the eternal self through the light of awareness of the Atma, that is called the Chitta.
So the mind, which is inert, in fact, it comes to the light through the reflected light.
By the quality of the Atma. The quality of Atma is Chitta, that is the awareness. So with the help of that quality, your mind is the mind intellect thoughts or attributes, whatever, like the knowledge which you collect, it gets exposed to the self.
Yeah,
because
but not directly. Not directly. It is a reflection.
Not directly. It is by taking
reflection.
help of that quality of Atma, of that
reflection of that.
Yeah.
So
because Chit is called that we read in the Tattva Bodh that Chit is the awareness quality of Atma. So Sat Chit Ananda. So we have to memorize this again and again. The quality is Sat Chit Ananda, and it is in this context, I think that this shloka, the quality of Atma, that Chit awareness is being explained. How the mind is inert, but when you, because Atma is self-effulgent, and because it has that quality of awareness in it, the mind is, and the mind or the intellect, you get to know things through that. Maybe I'm not very clear, but this is, and there's a line also mentioned, when these waves of thoughts arise in us, they are illumined by our awareness. So that awareness is the chit. When we cry, I know, I understand, I feel. There's a line in the second paragraph. Second, last line. Yeah.
So it reflects it. It reflects, not directly. Therefore, there is no change in the Atma, but what we get is the illumination of Atma reflected. So if there is any change in that mind or disturbance, it will change only the reflection, not the Atma. That is the theory behind, Really good.
I thought chitta is the pulsating energy in us.
No. That is the energy. We will call it prana. It's the prana force, the energy. The chit is the awareness. If you read in Tattva Bodha, it's it has the nature of the absolute knowledge. Like, it's only when you have that intuition also that you have, that is the quality of you get the good intuition when your antakaran is pure. So because you are more aware, you have that knowledge, that's why you get intuitions. Prana is the whole energy which performs all the actions in the body related to like circulation. 5 pranas we have studied. That is the energy part. Maybe Dr. Brahmara may have joined. She can further elaborate.
No, very nicely explained, Dr. Savita. You're very right. We need to go back to the definitions. In Tattva Bodh, Satkim is Trikala Kalatitaha. That is exactly as what Dr. Savita mentioned. And Chit Kim, Jnana Swarupaha, is the definition of Chit. It is the Swarupa of knowledge. And as we can translate it into awareness. They're very, very beautifully explained by Dr. Savita.
So should we stop here, or I can go ahead? Just let me know.
I think Atma Bodh we can stop here, Bela.
Yeah, okay.
Until what shloka we've done today?
25th. We completed 25th.
No? Yeah, so we'll stop here and regarding the manana for Atma Bodh, I thought maybe it's better that we just finish it now and then go to Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, the manana for whatever we have done today, we can just close our eyes.
We'll do it till 6:15, another about 10 minutes, and then we'll go to Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
My takeaway for today whole day will be like that bucket of water and how the sun gets reflected in that water, and that in reflected light, how the room gets illumined. I think if I am there whole day in this example, that will give more clarity about the functioning of mind and intellect. Because this reflection thing is very much self-explanatory through this example. It will help us to more clearly understand the distinction between the mind, intellect, and Atman, uh, all pervading that self, and how it is getting reflected in us. And in that reflected light only, we can see the whole Mayavi Jagat. Jai Gurudev.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. That our reflected surface, if it is not clear, then we will find the disturbed reflection only. Very nice. If you want me to read anything, please let me know. We started with the 22nd shloka, I believe. I think, from here.
In that reflected, disturbed mind, that feeling of I know will come. The experience of I know will come, and that is not the correct I know, because Atman is knowledge itself. There is nothing to be known there. It is. And this, what we understand, that disturbed, reflected knowledge, that is what is causing the I know, that small I know. And we are caught up in that.
Very
This
beautiful.
is real wow, Sureshji.
Really
Real
very
wow.
nice. Very nice. Gurudev once said, like Swami Chinmayanandji also, like when we say that this flower I know, but how much we know about a simple thing also. We believe we know everything, but it is so deep, the knowledge itself. And we know that the self is that knowledge only. So what is known, what is unknown, everything belongs to that self, which is self-evident. And I think our practices, prayers, sadhana, they will keep on cleaning that surface so that the reflection is also that nirmal, swachha, and we can feel that Satchitananda Swarupa.
And that I know will vanish.
Disappear, yes.
That I know, very nicely put, Sureshji. That I know is the ahankara which is opening up its food.
That is what
it is like that the ego. It has 1,000 heads, it is called. In Bhagavatam, it is mentioned, Rajima beautifully mentions, the ego has 1,000 heads.
Yes.
You might think you're taking care of one head, but so many other heads open up. So that ego is what, when we read the Bhagavad Gita, we'll understand where that resolution of that ego, which is what causes the fear. The fear comes when that ego is being resolved or dissolved, so to say. We want to hold on to that because we think our identity is that. But actually, that is that small I know, which we have to drop. And just that knowledge remains. Just the I.
That is what he says. No, there cannot be a marriage between this knowledge and mind. This is the half reflection which is causing the problem. That first paragraph, it says that we can read that, Belaji, little bit up.
How powerful is the Maya, no? For hundreds and thousands
That's what, yes.
We are caught up in that.
so beautiful it is.
See, the same. No, the same shloka. No, not that. Go down. There cannot be a marriage between these two. He says no. In that same.
Yeah, it was in the last stanza, last paragraph.
No, not the here. First. You see that only. Yeah. Without the power of illumination in the consciousness, the wind not be conscious.
Yeah.
See,
The
at the
Atma
same
is
time, a marriage between these two contradictory things is impossible. Because what we are getting, that light, is the reflected one, not the direct one. It cannot be direct. Either you are Atman or all this. So at the same time, marriage between the two contradictory things is impossible. And therefore, any alliance between these, the two, is only the best illusory superimposition. Good.
A dead body will not say, I know, right? That is inert, completely jada. The only reason why we are able to even talk and say, I know, I understand, I feel, and all that, is because of this consciousness getting reflected.
Reflected. Yes. So good. So we have to make that mind no mind. Then only the clear concept of Atma will come. And to become no mind, we have to do meditation.
And we should connect more and more to the source of everything, the consciousness, the substratum. That if we can, that is the matpara, matchitta, is what is that connecting with that source, with that self-effulgent aspect of Atma. If
we
we are
are
in that
connecting
state,
we are connecting to the reflected consciousness.
yeah, we are holding on to that reflection.
That reflectors.
We are holding on to the mirage and saying, I want water from this mirage. How will you quench your thirst from that water of the mirage? Impossible. But all our life we're doing that, such a futile exercise.
This is wow verse. I think the whole thing lies here.
Very nice.
Even this discussion is also a kind of mirage only, no? Talking about mirage.
It is, no?
We are talking with the reflected light of the I know. If that Atman I know, I will not talk at all. Jai Gurudev.
It is like we are in the dream world, dream of Atma. And each of us is like dream people. And we are talking and discussing about this. So,
But Didi, we are purifying the surface of reflection, isn't it?
correct. We are purifying. That is what we're doing. Jai Gurudev. Bela, we can go to Bhagavad Gita. Are you able to share the screen, Bela?
Yes, Brahmaraji, just give me 2 minutes here.
No problem. And let me know if you're able to read. If you're
Can you see the screen?
yes.
Yeah. So yesterday so you want me to read from the life of Brahmachari or from the
No, I
whole
think we'll read from the beginning, maybe.
the
The
okay.
PDF from the beginning, as in 13th and 14th shloka.
Okay.
Because these two verses, these few verses that they are
Yeah.
what we need to do and how we need to do.
Yeah. So I'll just try to bring back to the Bhagavad Gita. Yesterday we had talked about at the level of consciousness, we have to feel the ekatvam. At the level of mind, we have to feel the samatvam. And at the level of activity, as Brahmaraji had said, asangatvam. And that will be possible only through our prayers. And you can say that it will help us for the Indriya Nigraha, which we will see in the verses. So kindly bring back your attention to these takeaways and we can go ahead with the explanation. The explanation or only I started, Brahmaji.
Yes, Bella.
Should I read the shloka? Because again it will be...
You can chant the shloka for us to get the Sanskrit verse, and then we can read.
Okay. Samam gaya shiro grivam dharayannachalam sthirah samprekshanassagram swam dishaschanavalokayan prashantatma vigatabhihi brahmachari vrate sthitah manah sanyamya macchitto yukta asita matparah. Holding oneself firm without moving, holding the body, head and neck in one straight line as though looking at the tip of one's nose and not looking in all directions, being the one whose mind is tranquil, who is free from fear, established in one's commitment to the life of a brahmachari. May that yogi, meditator, sit thinking of me, having me as the ultimate goal. To hold the body, head and neck in one straight line means not to bend them in any way. In other words, one should sit erect for meditation, but even though the body, head and neck are vertical, you may sway or rock a little. Therefore, Krishna adds the word achalam, meaning that the body is to be kept still, and also sthira, meaning that one should be very firm in one's seat. This means that prior to meditation, the legs and feet are placed in such a way that they do not require any kind of change. Thus, there is both stillness and firmness in one's seat of meditation. Does one really meditate on the tip of one's nose? The posture described in this verse brings out a certain attitude or disposition in the person that is conducive to meditation. This posture includes one's gaze also. The expression looking at the tip of one's nose, sampreksha nasikagram, is sometimes misunderstood to mean that one should meditate on the tip of the nose. There are even two schools of thought on this. One saying you should meditate on the spot between the eyebrows, and the other saying that you should meditate on the tip of the nose itself. Because it could be literally taken and therefore misunderstood, Shankara explains what Krishna means by this expression in his commentary of this verse. In explaining the gaze, Krishna says, one, samprekshya nasikagram, looking at the tip of one's nose. This does not mean that one must sit cross-eyed. Rather, given the position of the eyes as they look out, they naturally fall or converge upon a particular point, and that is where they are to remain. This means you neither look up nor down. You look as though at the tip of your nose. Therefore, looking at one's nose is not what is being enjoined here by the expression samprekshya nasikagram. It simply addresses where the gaze should fall. This is explained by Shankara as follows. Shankara says that there is the word eva understood here. The word sampreksha, looking, should be understood as though looking. Darshanam kritva eva. The eyes are not even closed, in fact. They just look out in such a way that they do not look directly at any particular object, which is another way of avoiding distractions. Shankara questions what would happen if the person were asked to look at the tip of the nose. Looking at the tip of the nose, where would the person's absorption be? At the tip of the nose, of course, which is not what is desired here at all. In contemplation, the mind is to be absorbed in Atma alone, and for this, your mind must be available. If you are busy looking at the tip of the nose, how are you going to make use of the mind to contemplate upon Atma? Therefore, the object of meditation, Dheya, is not the tip of the nose, but something entirely different, as we shall see. Shankara also clarifies Krishna's words, Dishah Anavalokyan, as meaning not looking in any particular direction. When you are sitting in meditation, it is possible to look to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back, as well as up or down. Krishna already covered the possibility of looking up and down here by saying, Samam kayo shiro grivam dharayan. Samam kaya shiro grivam dharayan. Keeping the body, head and neck in one straight line, since one can also look to the left and right. Why not meditate that way? Because you will develop a pain in the neck. Thus, to avoid such discomforts, the position for meditation was established. Sitting outwardly in meditation is one thing, but there is also another sitting involved, an inside sitting. This inner sitting is what is meant by the word meditation and what is referred to by the words mata chittaha and mata paraha. Having already talked about the place of meditation, the seat itself, and the sitting posture, Krishna points out the object of meditation and also the nature of the meditator here. In fact, there are not many verses in the Gita that talk about meditation as such, whereas the meditator is talked about a lot. If you look at the entire Gita, you will find only one or two other sentences on the meditation itself. That is in the chapter 6, verse 25. The emphasis throughout the Gita
Like,
is on
do you
the...
mind reading that object of meditation, that paragraph? Sorry.
Yeah.
Mm,
The object of meditation.
yeah, about this mind, that part. Yeah, this Shankara, yeah, maybe this parak. Thank you.
Shankara questions, what would happen if the person were asked to look at the tip of the nose? Looking at the tip of the nose, where would the person's option be? At the tip of the nose, of course, which is not what is desired here at all. In contemplation, the mind is to be absorbed in Atma alone, and for this, your mind must be available. If you are busy looking at the tip of the nose, how are you going to make use of the mind to contemplate upon Atma? Therefore, the object of meditation, dheya, is not the tip of the nose, but something entirely different, as we shall see. You want me to read? So at the mind level, at the consciousness level, Bhagavan is saying, Mata Chitta Mata Para, that ekatvam, that oneness, only in that infinite self we have to meditate upon. We don't have to meditate upon the tip of the nose, but as though we are focusing our attention with that single focused attention, we have to think about that infinite, that Ananta Atma, that Ekatvam, and we are that has to be felt. That is very important. And
The
Disha
Chittaka,
Anava Lokayan. It means you
Mat
don't have
Chittaka
to.
is a single pointedness, and Mat Paraga is you are concentrating on the Atma, Paramatma,
Yes.
on the
Yes.
Jivatma, is the same.
Yeah. That those Shastra Vakya, Aham Brahmasmi and Tat Tvam Asi. You are that infinite, and so in the whole Gita, the emphasis is on meditator, how the meditator should be, more than how the meditation should be. That's what here Swamiji had explained. The emphasis throughout the Gita is on the meditator. Who it is that meditates is what makes the difference between a successful meditation and an unsuccessful one, a mere act of meditation. The present verse also talks a lot about the meditator, referring to the person as Prashanta Atma, one for whom the Atma, the mind, the Antakarana has gained certain degree of tranquility. Krishna talks about the real Shanti later, the Shanti that is gained as a result of meditation and knowledge. In this verse, however, because the person being discussed is a mumukshu, a seeker, the Shanti talked about is relative and refers to the degree of tranquility one has gained by living a life of karma yoga. We know this by the context, since in the previous verses, Krishna had been talking about the meditator and what he or she had accomplished thus far, all of which is conveyed here by describing the person as Prashanta Atma. The Prashanta Atma is one who has lived a life of Karma Yoga, who has taken care of his or her Raga Dvesha and is therefore no longer pressurized by them. So with Karma Yoga, he has cleared his Antakarana and his mind is Shuddha. And he is therefore his Prashant Atma. Yes.
So that's a natural happening, isn't it? It may take time for different people.
Yes.
So I have a doubt in the previous thing where he says, meditate on that Atma. How does one do that?
Can we keep that question for tomorrow? You make note
Okay.
of that. We'll take it up tomorrow. Okay. We'll wind up here today. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.